Hello, my name is Dr. Chris Zublionis, the Superintendent of Schools for the North Shore Central School District. Along with our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Mr. James Pappas, we have prepared video tutorial versions of our coffee conversations that will help explain the transition that the North Shore schools in our community are going through as a result of the Nassau County LIPA settlement. Understanding all of the factors will help us move forward as one united community in a way that balances the long-term interests of students, parents, and residents. Please always feel free to contact me or Mr. Pappas if you have any questions at any point.
Hello, this is Dr. Chris Zublionis, the Superintendent of Schools for the North Shore Central School District. Along with Mr. James Pappas, the Assistant Superintendent for Business, we have prepared a brief overview of the impact of the LIPA Nassau County settlement on our residents and our schools. The Glenwood Landing Loco Power Plant was first constructed in the early 1950s, and that created a large amount of revenue for the then Glenwood Landing School District. The neighboring Seacliff School District and Glen Head School District were soon ordered by New York State to join together with the Glenwood Landing School District in 1953 as the North Shore Central School District. This new district would share the benefits of the LOCO tax payments. The school district was literally born as a result of the construction of the power plant that is now decommissioned and off the tax rolls. For many decades, the LIPA power plant paid a large share of the taxes in the North Shore community. In the early 2000s, many of the properties began to convert into pilot properties or payments in lieu of taxes. Properties were taken off the tax rolls, but still made payments that increased. In 2010, the now LIPA company began to grieve its taxes and engaged in a tax certiorari lawsuit against Nassau County that just ended in 2022. While the lawsuit was occurring, more properties became pilots, and LIPA and other utilities paid less of the tax burden, leaving a higher burden on Class 1, the homeowners. The Board of Education advocated for legislative support and secured grants from state senators and assemblymen. That funding was used over time to offset tax increases. Finally, in 2022, LIPA and Nassau County settled their tax lawsuit. Had the county lost, it would have owed millions of dollars to LIPA, and it might have gone bankrupt. As a result of this settlement, all LIPA properties would be off the tax rolls, but LIPA would pay direct assessments over a 5-year period that would gradually decrease through a glide path each year and result in a total loss of over $38 million had the settlement not taken place. Nevertheless, the glide path does allow the school district to plan. While the North Shore Schools was not a party to the suit between the county and LIPA, there was a third-party suit that the district had filed and dropped in exchange for a $3.25 million payment from LIPA. The school district will use parts of these funds each year to soften budget cuts in any one year. In fact, the district used over $500,000 of this settlement in August 2022 to decrease the tax levy. As you can see, the tax base of the North Shore community that many residents moved into is drastically different today, with homeowners paying 54% in 2001 and over 83% today. While we will speak of the necessity of financial discipline and budget cuts later, it is important to note that much of the increase in taxes to homeowners comes from the loss of the Class 3 tax payments that have occurred over the past 20 years, and this has created an increased burden on Class 1, the homeowners. In 2001, homes paid 54.5%, while utilities paid 30.3%. By 2013, the percentage that homes paid grew to 64.5%, while utilities shrunk to 28.3%. And finally, in this year, we see that homes pay 83.4%, whereas utilities now pay 8.4% of the tax burden. When looked at side by side, you can see this tremendous evolution in the North Shore community. The district is aware and concerned about the impact of this tax base change on its residents. While this video is meant to explain the impact on property taxes, how the tax base in the community has changed, and how the county impacts taxes, the district also understands its role in finding solutions. It was clear that when the Nassau County LIPA agreement happened at the end of the school year, we would have big mountains to climb, both mountains of clarity and mountains of cost. First, mountains of clarity. The direct assessment structure in the LIPA deal is definitely not the same as taxes. This was confirmed with the Nassau County assessor in July. Not only did the North Shore schools know that direct assessments would decrease over time, but we discovered that any taxes that LIPA would have paid needed to come out of the tax levy, or else that amount would be shifted to the other tax classes. The North Shore schools proactively discussed this with the assessor, and then the Board of Education lowered the tax levy to account for this. This prevented a massive tax hike. Unfortunately, since LIPA is off the tax rolls, the proportion of tax that homeowners paid jumped to almost 83.4%, a 9% increase when the county adjusted its proportions for each property tax class this year. After adjusting the tax levy to account for the tax-based properties in the direct assessment, the Board of Education then used $500,000 of the LIPA settlement funds to arrive at a final tax levy of $85,925,546.11. This was a reduction of the tax levy from the previous year of about 6.94%. However, since the adjusted base proportion for Class 1 homeowners went up from about 74% to about 83%, this raised the total tax paid by Class 1. To be clear, Nassau County, not the North Shore schools, changed the proportion of tax that homeowners would pay. The district proactively discussed this on April 7th and on August 3rd. The district did not know how much the county would make the change by. We predicted a 6% change, but it turned out to be only a 4.25% change. Again, though, this was a county tax class proportion change. The district lowered its tax levy by 6.94% from the year before. One question that has arisen as tax bills come in is, why would my tax bill go up if the school tax levy went down? It is important to note that the tax levy increases, while obviously related, are not the same as property tax increases. There are several factors that alter the impact of the school tax levy on your individual property tax bill. The adjusted base proportion determines the percentage of the tax levy that homeowners pay. As stated earlier, about 20 years ago, homeowners paid only 54% of the tax levy. Now they pay 83%. In addition, the taxable value of a specific home has a direct effect on a home's school tax bill for a given year. Because of the Nassau County reassessment plan that began in 2021, different homes are having different increases in the taxable assessed value each year. This process will continue through 2025 and causes tremendous variation from one year to the next and from one home to the next. We thought it would be helpful to break down the ingredients of the school tax bill. This is an example of a home in Glenhead. The tax levy from the school is divided by Nassau County to determine each tax class's proportion. As has been stated, the proportion that Class 1, the homeowners, pay has increased. That proportion of taxes divided by the value of all homes provides you with the tax rate. As there are more homes and more values of homes, the tax rate goes down. You can see that since the district lowered the tax levy and the value of homes increased, the tax rate actually went down this year. If the assessed value of a home in this example stayed the same, its property tax would go down. However, because the county is also increasing assessments on all homes through 2025, property taxes went up. Interestingly, in this example, and like many homes in North Shore, school property taxes went up more last year since the taxable value of the house went up more last year. That same pattern can be seen in this house in Glenwood Landing. They had a greater increase in assessed value last year versus this year, so their taxes went up more last year. This also illustrates the very important point that the school tax levy increase is not the same as your school property tax increase. This is the case not only in the North Shore schools, but in all school districts. Look at this house in Syosset. Last year, with a 1.9% increase in the tax levy, this home had a 19.66% increase in their personal school property tax. This year, with the higher school tax levy, the same home had a small tax increase of only 5.18%. The reason for this pattern is the influence of the taxable assessed value change in the house, made by the county, and the tax rate determined by the county. You can see the variety and complexity of this tax formula in North Shore. Here are three homes next to each other on the same block in Glenhead. The first two homes have the same initial taxable assessed value, but then that value varies from year to year. As a result, the individual school property taxes also vary. The Land Records Viewer, LRV, nassaucountyny.gov, can provide you with all of this specific information about your property. Just enter your street name and number, but leave out the designation like street, lane, drive, or court. There are also several exemptions that North Shore residents can qualify for. While Nassau County controls adjusted base proportions and taxable assessed values for homes, the North Shore schools will certainly answer any questions that residents face. The second set of mountains that the district needs to face are the mountains of cost. Even though the school district lowered its tax levy this year, the tax cap cannot provide sufficient room to deal with the loss of revenue from LIPA. Simply put, tax increases cannot address the loss of revenue from LIPA. As you can see, as the direct assessments of LIPA decrease, the annual difference between what the community and the district are receiving and what we would have received also increases, leading to a cumulative loss of over $38 million. In addition, at the end of 2027, Nassau County and LIPA can extend these direct assessments for another 5 years. However, if they do not, then the district and community could lose another $8 million annually for a total loss of over $45 million from 2022 to 2028. Again, this difference cannot be made up through increasing the tax levy. The district has created plans for annual solutions that will help us in a given budget year, as well as permanent solutions. Annual solutions include the use of reserves and LIPA settlement funding, as well as special grants from legislators. Annual solutions will help with funding for a given year, but are either limited or would need to be renewed each year. Permanent solutions like budget cuts, new revenue, or increased state aid would permanently fill the revenue hole created by the loss of LIPA tax revenue, as it would create permanent savings or revenue. Our goal is to find permanent solutions that balance the interests of students, families, and residents, ensure that our students continue to have a positive experience, and also ensure that our community remains a desirable place for new families to move to, a direct determinant of property values. I hope this presentation was helpful. please contact me, Chris Zublionis, Superintendent of Schools, or Mr. James Pappas, Assistant Superintendent of Business, if you have any questions.